Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks.
So, how's everybody doing today? This is Attorney Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks. I just wanted to have a discussion again to reiterate the importance of understanding this moment when it comes to gambling and fantasy football. I believe that we're in a critical moment. I believe that this moment may be so transitional that you don't even understand the impact of following these sports and that fantasy football and what it could mean for your family. I want to make sure that you understand some elements of what's going on, why the states have allowed it, how little regulation is going on, and what's coming for you. I know we did a show prior, and in that show we talked about some of these shows that have popped up. And in this show, I'm going to talk about the states as well. So let's get right into it so I don't have to hold you too long. Let's get right into the discussion. So when we look at these shows, what am I talking about? I'm talking about all of these black YouTube shows that have popped up over the last 12 to 24 months that look so beautiful and have a set and have these cameras, and they all seem tied to like fantasy football. You know, as you from the last show, and I'll get into it again, that black young men are the most prone to being addicted to this fantasy football. Men in general, young men in general, but particularly black young men. Well, when you look at it, you got Gil's Arena, Underdog Fantasy, presented by. That's not just, so I want to make sure that one thing is clear, because I think that what happens is I almost have to teach the components of the social dialogue we're having just to have a conversation. So let me teach one part. I'm not talking about an algorithm that catches you being critical of something that shows an ad. You might find that on my show, on Yvette's show, on anyone's show. I'm talking about when you actually are sponsored and presented by fantasy football. If you don't know the difference, maybe this ain't the show for you, and maybe you ain't gonna be able to make it. But I'm talking about when you got this sticker for Underdog Fantasy, presented by Underdog Fantasy. I want to talk today. I don't even know if people understand the I mean, I just don't want you coming to me individually with an email about your son and gambling, and then you told me tonight that it's too heavy. Because I get those emails. Maybe you don't, but I get those emails. You got Shannon Sharp Club Shay Shay, presented by DraftKings. You got Joe Budden with Prize Picks. You got Paul George with Prize Picks. So all these people have these shows that are presented by gambling and fantasy football. And fantasy football is a way to get around that some states have not legalized the gambling. We went over that last show. You can get more details in that show. That we're going to talk about something else today. I need you to see it, because if I don't talk about it, nobody's talking. It's kind of like reparations. Nobody was talking about reparations before me and Yvette talked about it. Like, it wasn't no national discussion on YouTube. Tariq wasn't talking about no damn reparations. He wasn't talking about ADOS or anything. I mean, none of these people. Umar isn't. Nobody's talking about this gambling. Some of it is because they live in a world where they can't offend other people. I don't care who I offend. I speak the truth. So it don't matter if I go on Joe Budden's show. I don't care no way. Or it don't matter if Charlamagne, my friend, I don't care no way. Or Shannon Sharp. Y'all saw Shannon Sharp block me. He should block me, because I'm going to make it clear that you need to answer for that gambling in a way that nobody else will bring it to your head. So I'm saying this to you because nobody is speaking about this, and it's all around you. And then you're going to complain or talk to me in a single email. And this is the moment where I'm going to say my part. Don't call me in no email. Don't send me no phone call. Don't send me no long letter in the mail. If you didn't today, when the 49ers and the Chiefs was on, don't later. I'm just telling you how I see it. You go on and place your bets. I want to have a discussion today. I mean, before even the 49ers and the Detroit Lions started, you had Fox pushing this prop betting gambling before the game. They said $5 will win you, and it was real mumbly, but it was $43.74. So you're gonna mess your whole Sunday up for $38 that you may or may not win, and very likely won't. In my opinion, just keep your $5. States need to regulate this fantasy football and prop betting gambling craze. Again, they said it in a mumble, but then they typed it and it said bet $5 and or to win $43.74. You're about to mess up your whole Sunday afternoon to win $38. Lord. And you thinking that you about to become a millionaire following everybody's stats all afternoon. We got to hear about that with the salsa dip. I want to talk because they threw it in slick and fast. I wanted to slow that down. Let me say it again. They did a whole release where they said you can win $43.74 on your $5 bet. But it was real fast. Now, I don't know if they're legally required to tell you this, but then they did it so fast that you missed it. I wanted to make clear that you see the $38 that you fucked up everybody's afternoon over, that you didn't even win because you just lost the $5. 310-388-3499 to call in. I want to have the discussion. I want to get into it today. People laughing. We having a discussion this evening. States, leagues, and casinos hope to hit legal sports gambling home run. Last week, and this is back in 2018, I did a show back in 2018 telling you this was coming, telling you the fantasy football was coming, and far too few of you did anything. If any of you did anything at all. It was all a game. Well, it's not a game no more. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court declared a federal law prohibiting states outside of Nevada from legalizing sports gambling to be unconstitutional. Some states already have legislation in place that will allow sports gambling practices to legally begin now that the federal ban is lifted, while several other states have introduced such legislation. Casinos and racetracks stand to see huge profits from more wagering, taking advantage of legal sports betting. So this is back in 2018. States, leagues, and casinos hope to hit legal sports gambling. So what I wanted to explain in this show that I didn't really explain in the last show is the reasoning behind why the states have allowed this. Sports gambling is a tax on the poor. Let me say that again. Just like the lotto, sports gambling, fantasy football is a tax on the poor and aspirational. That's why I believe they're on these shows. Yopo watching them. And they trying to get you interested in thinking that you can get $100 for your $5, not telling you that you're going to make $42 if you win on that $5. I want to get to it. You all in? Leaning back like you a professional. The quick cash from sports betting can lead to a dangerous cycle of increasing bets to make back losses, resulting in devastating financial consequences. Overall, young Black males are associated with the highest rates of gambling disorders in the U.S. You don't think that they know that? The gambling houses that are backing and investing in these shows. For all of you guys that have spent your lifetime without ever seeing or talking to anyone worth a lot of money, saying that Black NBA players should just start their own leagues, why they can't even start their own goddamn shows? Maybe they don't have the money that you believe, and maybe you don't know what you're talking about. You've been running around here beating your chest about a wealth level without even understanding wealth. Because I damn sure see Paul George right here, and he damn sure got this Prize Picks right here. Why he can't take his millions and just make a show? You got Gilbert Arenas, who also made a ton of money, and he got Underdog Fantasy on his. Now, either they don't know, which is even more problematic, which is very possible. These are oftentimes very low-educated men, often left college early, and also sometimes didn't even go to college. I think that what happens is you guys have created a world where celebrity idols are the top of your vision of a society. Them people ain't the top, those are the court jesters. We ain't got no respect for architects. We ain't got no respect for generals because we don't see none. We don't respect surgeons or lawyers because we don't have no wealth to access that no way. So what we do is we respect this shit. I want to talk today. I want to get into the discussion because what I'm seeing is you guys don't understand why these states have allowed this gambling, this fantasy football, because they go out to hit a home run and tax you. See, a lot of you guys are in the red states. We like in LA, honestly, young black people, we don't play the lottery. Like the blacks, the ADOS blacks, we don't play the goddamn lottery. For you guys that never been here, you don't know. We don't really do scratch off. We don't play the lottery. When I went down to the South, that's like a common culture. That's a tax. That's just them taxing you. It's like when you they got an 8% sales tax here in LA. If you buy something, they charge you another 8 cents. Well, imagine if you just paid that 8 cents, but you didn't pay 8 cents, you paid a full dollar, and you wasn't even buying nothing. That's what the lottery is. And that's what this fantasy football is. Maybe you don't understand why they allowed it. That's what I wanted to talk about today. You just paying taxes on nothing. You think that you betting, you paying tax. You all in on paying tax for nothing? Can I talk about it today? Can I get to it, Coy? That's what I wanted to talk about today, where the states are failing because they said they was going to be able to regulate better, but there's articles showing that they don't have no regulation or they have minimal. But in actuality, what they're really trying to do is just get you to pay free taxes. Yeah, bro said we love playing them scratch offs. I've never been with another young black person and we stopped at a liquor store and they spent their money on a scratch off here in Los Angeles. I don't even think I can explain that how culturally different we are. Or let alone play the numbers. The Latinos play, and that the Latinos play the lottery, but like we don't. Why did states legalize gambling? While additional money for state government was used as a selling point for legal sports betting, another goal was consumer protection, allowing customers to bet with entities regulated by the government, where their deposits are secure and there's no danger of a sports book suddenly disappearing with someone's cash. So they sold the regulation. It's just like lottery, what they sell you on, and we don't even have that stuff on TV where they try to tell us about the schools and all that. You guys have little infomercials for the lottery down there. I was in Atlanta and it came on TV. We don't have that. That was weird to see. But nonetheless, they tell you that they're going to spend the money on the schools and everything else. That's a tax being spent on schools, and you might not even have no kids. But in and of itself, that's what they did with this. They sold it on consumer protection, but in actuality, the big part is the additional money for state governments. So you just giving your $5 away. Stack Breeze. I bet thousands. I hope you bet it if you want to. Fantasy sports is a $3.3 billion industry, and it ain't even that no more. It's way more than that now. Can we talk about it? Fantasy sports is worth more than the billion-dollar teams. The states are allowing it so that they can get free tax money. You signing up for it and then trying to act like you don't understand why your life is failing. I just wanted to connect the dots today because you got to wonder, why are they allowing this on YouTube? And ain't nobody saying nothing. You got, again, Gilbert Arenas and presented by Underdog Fantasy. You got Joe Buttons with Prize Picks, pick more or less. These people are stopping their shows in many cases to do a whole 1.5, 2-minute infomercial for gambling, for the fantasy football, for the betting, the prop betting, or whatever you call it. You got Shannon Sharp with the presented by DraftKings. Presented by. Not an algorithm, random 30-second commercial. Presented by. They had a whole thing where Yahoo articles come out And Mace and Cameron are supposed to get 8 figures from Underdog, I believe it is. 8 figures. Some people said $30 million. You think that they're paying Mace and Cameron multiple millions of dollars to talk about sports when they don't know about sports? Or do you think that they may be possibly getting them people to sell commercials for the gambling? And that's why they would give them millions of dollars. You make your own opinion about it. Maybe you was looking for what Mace thought about Stephen Curry shooting for him. Or maybe you was looking for how Cameron thought about Terrence Crawford's fight with Earl Spence. I wasn't. It don't even make no sense. But it do make sense to give them millions of dollars so that they can get these young black males hooked up on this gambling, in my opinion. I want to talk today. I'm not going to keep you long, but I wanted to just make things clear. Please support the channel. Please support the channel, tonetalks.net. Subscribe, donate, or share the video. I want to make sure that we all are here having this discussion. Sometimes I don't push for enough support because I get into the content, but support the channel. My Cash App is Tone Talks. Support 310-388-3499. It's a little late, so I might not get many calls, but this is an informational show as well. Again, fantasy sports is a $3.3 billion industry, and this is way in the past. It's way more than that now. Worth more than the damn billion-dollar teams. Let's get together on this Sunday night. Put that remote down. Turn off the TV. It's time to settle in. We done did 7 hours of football for no reason. It's time to get some lessons going on because our families is about to be burning up. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Milwaukee, Antonio.
Give me your take.
That's cool. Hey, you know, I sell products, so I'll be at the store. I sit in line. I watch people buy maybe about $15, $20. Elderly people come in the store and spend $15, $20 at a time at the Indian and Arab stores, corner stores. You know, and I'm saying people don't have nothing for their kids, so it's very sad to watch. You know, and I also want to say that what one sad part about it is, they took the lottery from the black people who used to take the last 3 numbers off the when they used to run numbers. They used to take the last 3 digits off the stock market. That was during our times of poverty, at that time when we were going through. So that's why we so attracted to that.
Can I ask you a question? What do you think about these new YouTube shows where everybody seems to be presented by fantasy sports?
Well, that's our problem. But anyway, is that we don't hold none of our celebrities accountable for what they feed us. We don't. At the time, I remember you spoke on it when he did the Coke 45 commercial.
Mm-hmm.
That was frowned upon at one time. But now we don't care what you sell us or how negative it is.
Yeah, you got Snoop out here doing music videos for Grubhub, which is nothing more than the exploitation of poor people to burn out their cars and burn out their lives. And then you got Klarna with the layaway. He do that too, and y'all still celebrate him. And I believe we're at a critical point where black people don't even understand failure. Adolph's black people. Not until it gets a million. Go ahead.
You got to understand. Jay-Z went against the Colin Kaepernick kneeling, and then he came back with the prison reform, with the criminal reform, and now he's going to say embrace it. He's going to do prison break.
Well, let's make that clear. For a lot of you guys, you told me about Jay-Z, but we never got back to it. And I'm not. This is just a tangent. The last thing we heard was, and it's just a basic understanding of the business. The title thing failed, so then Sprint came in and they bought a third. That failed with Sprint. So then Jack Dorsey came in through a life raft, and the NFT thing was supposed to be the last. That has failed with the NFTs most likely because nobody's buying NFTs 2 years ago. And y'all told me he's a billionaire. I just want to know from what. Now, in addition, the man invested in Uber early because they wanted to get us invested in Uber as Adolph's black people, not because they wanted his money. They didn't need his money. And then he sold the anklets, and then he did the layaway. At what point do you web this all together and realize these people are in a form of population control, in my opinion? Give me your last take on it.
Not only did he do that, if you look at it, he signed with Live Nation, which is basically a 360 deal, because he gave him part of his touring, and he led the rest of the artists into Live Nation and 360 deals.
Look. Let me focus you, because I want to keep it focused on the show. Last thing on this thing, because I got a queue filling up now. Thank you for kicking it off. What do you think needs to happen with this gambling? Because the states are trying to get tax money.
That's got to be the push to ban the gambling. You got to put the ban on the gambling, and it's as many restrictions as possible. We already got opiate addictions. We already got cocaine addiction. You just piling on addictions in your community right now.
Yeah, while you
another addiction.
Man, I'm gonna let you go on that one. While you think your kid's about to be successful and you didn't even do ADOS right. Yeah, I don't see how you think this gonna play out, but I see it. Thank you so much for calling, dude. Look, I want to get through this show. I'm gonna take a couple of callers, but I am gonna get through the material so that everybody can get a better understanding of what I'm saying. So Dave Ramsey, I'm not a fan of him entirely, but this quote applies to the lottery, but I believe it also applies to this gambling and this fantasy football, because the big money is in taxing the fantasy wagers. The lottery is a tax on poor people and on people who can't do math. So you can basically, as I read this, take out the word lottery and just put in sports betting or fantasy football. The lottery is a tax on poor people and on people who can't do math. This is Dave Ramsey. Rich people and smart people would be in the line if the lottery were a real wealth building tool. But the truth is that the lottery is a ripoff instituted by our government. This is not a moral position. It is a mathematical, statistical fact. Studies show that the zip codes that spend 4 times what anyone else does on lottery tickets are those in lower income parts of town. The lottery or gambling of any kind offers false hope, not a ticket out. Let's go back. The quick cash from sports betting can lead to a dangerous cycle of increasing bets to make back losses. Overall, young black males are associated with the highest rates of gambling disorders in the U.S. You guys have young black males in your home and are doing nothing. You guys are bringing in the lottery and then telling them not to do gambling. You guys are buying the shoes with Klarna because you don't have no money, so mean you can't get no shoes, and then telling them about financial literacy and stocks. You guys are doing no 529 plans, which is how you save for college. Many of you don't even know nobody with a 529 plan. I don't know how that works with parenting in America in 2023. But you do no 529 and then talk about college all the time and scholarships. That's just what we're going to talk about. It's time to grow up. It's time to do some numbers. They got the people in the shows that promote the football in the DraftKings stuff. Most Americans feel they pay too much tax. That's a new article that came out according to polls. How do you feel if you're giving away your money in gambling? To the gambling house, to the people who promote it? Because where do you think they get the money to have presented by from your gambling losses? Oh, that part wasn't clear to you. And then you giving the money to the state through the taxes. Place your bets. Millman 529, go look it up. That's the plan, how you save for college for your child and avoid taxation being at high rates. You can go look it up for more details. Everyone that has a child should know about that. I don't know what people are doing. I just know that I'm just doing this show so you get better understanding how legalizing gambling can help many states. I'm going to take another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening, Tone. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm going to talk about this in a second, but I'm going to take your words first about how these states are actually just trying to get tax money from this gambling. Free tax money.
Oh, well, You're 100% right. All of it is a tax. They've been taxing ADOS into oblivion since the 60s. If you go back, you start with, you've already spoke about this, how they started to tax us with college tuition.
Mm-hmm.
Then they used cigarettes. They pumped cigarette ads all over the community. They pumped cigarettes all over the community. When I was young, used to have cigarette machines. You didn't even have to go through somebody to get a cigarette.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Joe Camel was banned because it targeted children. In my view,
yes,
and this is my opinion, these folks are no different than Ronald McDonald or Joe Camel. And I don't mean that in any offensive way to them or derogatory way. It's just the truth. They are a target, a specific community that has a prone addiction to this specific type of gambling and fantasy football. Ronald McDonald, Joe Camel, all of it's the same as Diddy and Jay-Z and Joe Budden. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, celebrity has been involved in our politics at a high level for far too long. Even Malcolm X spoke on it when he said, where do you see a singer or a comedian as a leader in the community anywhere but in the Black community? So this has been a pervasive thing that is passed down from generation to generation when we deify and we glorify the people that they choose to make rich. But understand that the people that they chose to make rich are just that. They're chosen. Even the basketball players, the football players, there's tons of talent out there that never gets picked. And also,
let me say this. I hear a lot of people bring that up, and this is no disrespect to Malcolm X, but he died decades before Michael Jackson became Michael Jackson. See, what they did though is that they created a specific post-boomer Gen X, I guess you could say, oldest millennial group that is prone to an addiction to celebrity in Black America, particularly, unlike anything Malcolm X could have even imagined. He's talking about people that are greatest gen, that got the look of delayed football or basketball, or still had their daddy as their biggest hero, but still had celebrity to some degree. What we're dealing with is an iPhone of basically instantaneous, fantastical escapism through the escapades of LeBron James. Malcolm X couldn't have dreamed of this. What I'm trying to tell you is I'm not saying
this.
Yes, I'm just making that clear because I think that's a lot of times we get lost in.
I'm not saying that, Malcolm. I'm not saying that Malcolm dreamed of this. What I'm saying is Malcolm was like the canary in the coal mine.
No, I agree. But what I'm alluding to is he couldn't even see how deep this coal mine goes, and that's not a disrespect to him, because the reality is that the technology that happened over our lifetime, over this last 30 years, is like anything ever seen in the history of the world, not the history of the last 100 years. What happened is, you got to realize when your young adult life starts, we don't even all have pagers. Like pagers was for professionals in the early 80s. They have taken us from there to where everybody can instantaneously communicate, but they have not regulated that communication. So you got to regulate that old living that your family like culturally learned on in the 30s. It don't work no more. You're going to have to do better parenting. You're going to have to do better family, because the phones make it so too much danger can come into your house. And right now, you're not doing it. That's the point of this show. From the state taxing you, you've been doing the lottery. Your grandma do the lottery. Don't nobody say nothing because she old, and we got to respect our elders. I don't give a shit. She need to stop lottery playing. I need her to stop playing the lottery. I need your son to stop doing fantasy football, and I need you to stop doing Klarna. Is that too much to ask? Come on, let's have a session tonight. Let's have a. Hey, what would you say to Shannon Sharpe? Let me ask you that about having this gambling on this show.
Well, all of them are problematic. Shannon Sharpe, Joe Budden, Joe Camel, aka Jay-Z, and Diddy, Snoop Dogg. They're all nothing but pimps of an outdated rap, hip hop, decadent celebrity, and they now have become the icons of this celebrity lifestyle that everybody is trying to achieve. Everybody thinks that it's possible through DoorDash and fantasy football and taking it until they make it. Some kids are even out here trying to emulate those early lives that they had with the gang banging and the drug dealing, and that's failing them. So it's very problematic what we have with this betting. I see it even at my workplace, where all of the younger millennials and millennials that work where I work are all sitting around talking about their.
And this is the beginning. And this is the beginning. And this is the beginning. That's why. And nobody. And I don't know nobody else talking about it but me. Nobody. Like literally.
No, because
nobody.
You're going against the grain. You're going against the grain. The grain is now we're moving to a new way to oppress people. We're not doing it the old way. We're not doing it with the police. We're not doing it with the drugs.
This is the new mass incarceration
that they make with these cell phones.
Hey man, look, let me get through the rest of this show. I don't want to hold everybody. Me and you could probably banter all night. Thank you so much for calling. Look here. That old style of parenting where you don't just use the street light as your boundary ain't good enough no more. So with the phone, you can like have your kid in by the street light and they still can get to them through the gambling and through these shows on YouTube. Talk about it. So you got them inside, you using your mama's model of parenting or your grandmama with the wooden nickels. You remember she used to talk about the wooden nickels? You using that model of parenting in an iPhone era. That's the point I was bringing up with Malcolm X. It wasn't saying that some parts of what he was saying wasn't right, but we in another space now. We need to step forward. We in a decadent veil. We in the matrix. And I'm saying to you, the tools of just using space, just using physical boundaries are not good enough no more. You better do the work. A lot of y'all gonna have to get rid of the sports. I mean, I'm just telling you so you can wean yourself off. I know that's your whole life for some of y'all. I think we're quickly going to a space where within the next 5 to 10 years, and I would argue it's gonna be sooner, you got to just get rid of the sports because it's gonna be too intertwined with the betting, with the gambling. ESPN has ESPN Bet. They have contracts with the NFL and the NBA. The NFL, as I understand it, is trying to look into an equity stake in ESPN, who then is still ESPN Bet. I don't know what y'all gonna do. But you better do something because you already ate the fruit. That's what you did when you had the kid. I want to talk because they trying to tax you twice, 3 times over, place your bets, and it's really just a tax, and you don't know that. Let me say it again, as Dave Ramsey said it. Again, not a pure fan of him, but the lottery's a tax on the rich and on the poor people and on people who can't do math. And many of us can't do math. I mean, that's why you see this here. Young black males are associated with the highest rate of gambling disorders in the U.S. You built yourself in a certain model, then said, I'm not going to follow the model. You did the boys class and then you bought the crypto. Wait. You did the boys class and then you bought the Klarna for payments. You asking people to let you borrow money, but your FICO is a 590 or 610. That means you're not a good person to loan to. So if you did the boys class and it said all of the financial literacy tools, and then you're going to ask somebody else to do bad financial literacy and loan money to you? I want to talk. Let's make it personal today because they're trying to tax us twice over. Come on. So yeah, I don't know if they rigged. I can care less. All I know is that they put that gambling on. I know the WWE is, but I don't know. How legalized gambling could help many U.S. states. Presently, 48 U.S. states allow some form of gambling, including state-run lotteries within their borders. Hawaii outlawed gambling even before it became a state. Likewise, Utah's Latter-day Saint majority has banned gambling entirely in its state constitution. 44 states are home to some form of casinos and allow charitable gambling. Most of those allow lotteries and pari-mutuel betting, but only 33 states permit commercial gambling of any type. Commercial gambling includes traditional and riverboat casinos, racetrack betting, and online casinos or sports betting. So how would legalizing these commercial forms of gambling help the states that don't allow these activities, gambling revenue in the U.S.? According to the American Gaming Association figures, U.S. gambling generated $60.4 billion in revenue in 2022. The previous year saw $53.4 billion in revenue, meaning a 13% increase between the periods. Considering these figures don't include any revenue from the 523 tribal casinos countrywide, any future legal casinos could substantially increase these figures. The revenue also doesn't include illegal gambling monies. Of the 13 states that permit commercial gambling, 30 showed gambling revenue growth in 2022. Compared to the same period in 2021. In Nevada, the gambling hub of the U.S., casinos had already generated 10% more revenue by the end of November 2022 than over the whole of 2021. Even a small portion of Nevada's $13.5 billion figure could make a huge difference to a fully legalized gambling landscape in many states that currently lack regulation. This is a new tax. New York became the U.S. epicenter for sports betting, according to the New York State Gaming Commission. Residents spent $16.6 billion on sports betting through mobile apps in 2022. Legalized sports betting came into operation in New York in January 2022. There are currently 8 legal sportsbook apps operating in the Empire State. Sportsbook operators in New York pay a sizable 51% tax on their profits. Let me say it again. Sportsbook operators in New York pay a sizable 51% tax on their profits. This is a business for the state. Can we talk? As a result, the $1.4 billion generated from New York sports betting in 2022 grew state coffers by over $709 million in tax alone over the same period. Besides the tax generated, New York accrued another $200 million through licensing fees. Hence, the state's revenue increased by more than $900 million in 2022 from mobile sports betting. The California casino landscape is one that's considerably lagging behind in proactivity, much like Texas. In these states, among others, players currently rely on offshore sports books to place their bets and enjoy their favorite slots and table games. As such, all generated sports betting and casino revenue is being lost to unregulated gambling markets abroad. And we can only assume these figures are considerable thanks to the number of people living in both states. Allowing legal sports betting to operate would generate more state revenue. These tax and licensing figures could be of great benefit to the states concerned. I'm just telling you the truth so you can get ready for it, because I'm just trying to be real. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Texas.
Give me your take on it.
I thought it was funny that Charles Barkley, who admitted to being a gambling addict and degenerate, turned around and he was on a FanDuel commercial. So it just goes to show that they'll use anybody to market this gambling thing. That was kind of the reason why Mark Cuban just sold the Dallas Mavericks.
Who'd he sell it to? Tell him who he sold it to.
He sold it to the owner. He sold it to the owner of the Palm Casino.
So a casino owner now owns, I think, a majority stake of a whole NBA team. Correct?
Correct.
I don't know what y'all gonna do. How you gonna keep on watching this? It's about time.
And Mark Cuban said it out of his mouth that his goal is to bring gambling to Texas. That's what he said.
Millennials place most sports bets. Black men wager more frequently than white males. I don't know how much I can tell you. They just taxing you, and that they're basically getting all these people in on the taxation, and that this betting is gambling, and that gambling is bad. If you play the damn lottery, you don't know what's bad or good anyway. You've been out here playing around for 25, 30 years. So it's already in your house. Oh, they finna just turn up the nozzle. My thing is just don't email me, though, or Yvette. Don't ask us at the backside. We telling you right now that it's time to turn it all off or deal with the consequence. Caller, I'm going to keep going because I don't want to keep everybody too long. Thank you so much for calling. I want to get to it because I believe y'all should be saying more than you saying, but not saying nothing like it's a game, like the kids are free. This is the fee for the kid. So the fee isn't just, or even, that's the icing, feeding them and all that. The fee is dealing with this. You got to stand up. I want to talk about it. Can I do the math for you? Can I calculate it? They got them all in that DraftKings. I think he was an NFL cornerback. In terms of frequency of wagering, millennials bet on sports more than other age groups, and within that demographic, black men place more wagers than their white counterparts. You can't make up your reparations with sports betting. You can't pay for that family you can't afford with sports betting. You can't deal with the fact that your mama and your daddy don't have no inheritance for you with sports betting. It just ain't gonna work. I'm just making it real simple. That's according to a survey by Men's Health that served as the foundation for a sweeping multi-article series on the state of regulated sports wagering in the U.S. The magazine polled 3,800 men, of which 1,500 acknowledged that they placed at least one sports bet in the past year. The notion that millennials place more sports bet than other age cohorts jives with previous research from other sources. While other surveys have examined the sports wagering habits of men and women, few have drilled down on racial data. The Men's Health Survey notes more millennial black men bet frequently than millennial white men, but doesn't mention any other groups such as Asian Americans or Latinos. Still, the typical sports bettor is a white male between 25 and 34, according to the magazine. Let's get to it. What percentage of men gamble in sports? Over 48% of male respondents admitted to having bet on sporting events at some point in their lives, whereas this figure amounted to 33% among female respondents. So if we bet more, that means that might be 65 or 70% just for black males. And that's before they got it going. So what does this lead to? Maybe 90% being bettors? How y'all gonna have these homes? Okay, we'll just deal with that later, I guess. Not gonna keep you too long. We shorted the first down. That's FanDuel in the corner. We shorted that first down though. O'Kara said he a sports gambler. I need to talk. I just want to get to it. I'm not going to hold you too long. America's bet $220 billion in sports in 5 years since legalization. Americans have bet over $220 billion on sports with legal gambling outlets in the 5 years since the U.S. Supreme Court cleared the way for all 50 states to offer it, and the industry shows few signs of slowing despite some recent scandals. No, it's the fastest growing. The fast growing industry is also far reaching. Its advertisement reach into most U.S. homes during sport events. They got Kevin Hart and they got Jamie Foxx, and y'all following Jamie Foxx and Kevin Hart and ain't saying nothing to them about how they bringing this gambling to your home. And then when your son got a gambling addiction, you want to send me an email. During sporting events and even non-sporting programming, few TV viewers have been spared from repeated ads during a Caesar character discussing sports gambling with members of Manning football dynasty, or from actor Jamie Foxx placing sports bets in between takes on a film set. While the milestone of legalized sports betting that have led up to now are remarkable, this industry is excitingly still far from being fully realized. Excitingly, he said Jason Robbins, CEO of DraftKings, one of the industry's two dominant companies. Legal betting is already part of the mainstream sports culture, and I anticipate this trend will grow as adoption increases. The accessibility right now for fans to place a live micro bet during a game, for example, shares parallels with other smartphone-powered capabilities like hailing a ride or buying a stock. Come on. Then $220 billion, and that's the CEO of DraftKings saying that. They try to make it buying an Uber ride or buying one of them stocks on Robinhood. The $220 billion figure includes wagers made through the end of March in most states, according to the American Gaming Association, the gambling industry's national trade group. It is up from the $125 billion that had been wagered at the 4-year mark. Considering this, sportsbooks generally keep about 10% of all the money they handle after paying out winning bets to customers. Achieving profitability has been a hard slog. FanDuel became the first to report a profitable quarter in the second leg of 2022. DraftKings expects its first profitable quarter at the end of this year. The amount of money kept by sportsbooks as winnings over the last 5 years is $17 billion, according to the American Gaming Association, the gambling industry's national trade group. Over that same period, sports betting taxes on operators have generated almost $3.6 billion, $3 billion for state and local governments, and $570 million for the federal government. So we paying reparations to the government through taxes, through this betting. Wait, y'all think that we gonna talk about reparations as ADOS, and y'all paying reparations to the government through the fantasy football? In many cases, an individual states take amounts to drops in the bucket, while additional money for state governments was used as a selling point for legal sportsmen. Another goal was consumer protection, allowing customers to bet with entities regulated by the government where their deposits are secure and there's no danger of sportsbooks suddenly disappearing with someone's cash. The avalanche of advertising for sports betting has also triggered a backlash to the point where the gambling industry and most major professional sports leagues adopted stronger standards for their own advertising. They were widely seen as an attempt not only to do something about the proliferation of gambling and particularly sports betting ads, but also be seen as doing something and hopefully head off threatened government regulation of sports betting ads. So these are not really regulated yet, is what this article is saying. And you sitting up with your 10-year-old watching this because they talking about some basketball and how Kobe was a great man. It made no sense to me. What will the next 5 years look like? Chris Krafik of Eilers and Krejcik predicts more multifaceted deals among teams, leagues, and stadiums, and among betting operators and media companies, hotel chains, and beverage companies. What did we just say about who Mark Cuban sold the league to? A casino, his team, the Mavericks, to casino owner. Krafik said sports betting companies could develop VIP-focused retail destination and look to expand hyper-casual online wager, microbets. The trend of gambling companies located in sportsbook in or next to pro sports stadiums is likely to continue. Sportsbooks as a whole may slow down their promotional spending to rein in costs, and uncertainty should continue in the near future about the prospect for online betting, sports betting in California, the nation's largest state, and in Florida, where it is tied up in litigation. The industry is, and the way they're getting around that right now is calling it fantasy sports. And then they able to kind of create a loophole around, and it's still just betting. The industry is constantly coming up with new ways to bet too. One fast-growing trend is called micro betting. Them little small $5 bets where you can get that $43. But understand, they're telling you that it was taxation for the state, and then it was regulation, and they're selling that to you kind of like how they do the lotto, that you're gonna be able to help the schools. But when we look at more detailed articles, why the state, what we find is, like, this is the New York Times, why states were unprepared for the state's sports betting onslaught. Why states were unprepared for the sports betting onslaught. Government oversight of sports betting offers scant consumer protections and looks to the industry to police itself. So what happened to the regulation? They know how to collect them taxes. David Hummel placed his first sports bet in January 2021, wagering $250 on the underdog in a mixed martial arts fight. He won $662, he said, and it was probably the worst thing that could have happened to me. Having been drawn in by an offer of a risk-free bet, the gambling company FanDuel promised to refund his money if he lost. Mr. Hummel kept betting. In little more than a year, he had lost more than $30,000, draining his checking account to $327. Since 2018, when the Supreme Court opened the door to widespread sports betting, the gambling industry has mastered ways to attract customers like Hummel. And you wonder where these YouTube shows have come from. You got Gilbert Arenas with presented by. I don't want to hear nothing about. If you put something in the title, the algorithm, even if you're being critical, may show that commercial. I'm talking about where you're presented by and sponsored by. You got Joe Budden and Prize Picks, and then he stops and talks about them for like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes or something, and the ups and downs and all this. You got Club Shay Shay. You got Gilbert Arenas. Come on. Support the channel. I'm just trying to bring this content to you. Nobody is talking about this. Nobody. And then everybody's going to try to come in later and be like, oh, the addiction. I want to talk about it because I think it's going to get bad. The enforcement of state rules has been haphazard, with punishments often light or non-existent. According to a Times survey, dozens of state gambling regulators, some states have been so eager to get gambling up and running, they have let companies begin operating before comprehensive reviews of their backgrounds and practices have been completed. But they were supposed to look out for us. They have required few protections for consumers, dedicated minimal funds to combating addiction, and often turn to the gambling industry to help shape regulation and police its own compliance with them. A New York Times investigation found, unlike some countries that have endured waves of gambling addiction, few states have imposed restrictions on the kinds of promotions that help hook Mr. Hummel. So you got to do that on your own. They don't have no regulation for these people. You should be in the chat saying why you got the gambling. Hundreds of you, thousands of you, hundreds of thousands of you should be saying that. I want to talk. I want to get to it. In Iowa and Tennessee, sports betting companies allow gamblers to put money in their accounts via credit cards. Credit cards at that kind of interest rate. Even though seeking to discourage gambling debts, the state has outlawed such transactions. In New York, so let me say it again. In Iowa and Tennessee, sports betting companies allow gamblers to put money in their accounts via credit cards, even though the states had banned that. In New York, gambling companies accepted thousands of bets on lower division football and basketball games, even though they were supposed to be off limits. And in Indiana, dozens of people who had enrolled in a state program to block themselves from betting were nonetheless able to wager hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know a regulator that really just wants to go out and catch somebody, said Daniel Hartman. So this is part of the problem in the entire Black political / I guess you could say influencer space. Everybody's friends with everybody except for Tone and Vet. So what happens is, I want to see Angela Rye and them. They got that show. Why don't you talk about this sports betting? I don't want to hear shit about 2024 election right now. I want you to talk to me about that sports betting. I want you to talk to me about DJ Envy and his Cesar Pena thing. Oh, you can't because you Charlemagne friend? I need people to go on Shannon Sharp show and start asking, why you got all this liquor here in this sports betting? Bro, unk. I just want to talk today. I want to tell you today that I believe this is a tax. I believe it's a tax on Black folks by the people who promote it on their shows, by the state, by the gambling houses, and the house always wins. I just wanted to talk today. I don't want to hold you too long. Please go to ToneTalks.net, subscribe, donate, and share. Thank you so much for calling in.